Hi, Hector Aguilar of Aguilar Realty Group Homes, and again we're sitting here with Jacquie Selditch of Legacy First Escrow. Jacquie, I had a couple questions for you with regards to a seller side of a transaction. One of the important documents that needs to be filled out at the very onset of an escrow is what we call a statement of information. Can you tell us a little bit about why it's important to fill that out on the seller side?
So I always ask that the listing agents get a completed statement of information in the beginning of escrow or before they even open escrow, because there's information on there that is required by title to be ran to make sure that the seller is cleared of any liens, judgments, child supports, federal tax liens, stuff that could take a long time to request and get in before we close escrow.
Okay. And why is it important to have those in before we close escrow? I mean, do they get paid through escrow? How does that work?
Yes, all of the liens that appear and need to be paid, they have to be paid before we close an escrow transaction.
Wonderful. Okay. So does a statement of information have to be also filled out by buyers as well?
So it has been the case where we don't receive those statement of informations by the buyers in time, and then right before we're closing escrow, a child support or a tax lien or an old credit card judgment pops up against that buyer, and we're required to pay it before we close, and it delays our entire transaction.
In the case of a buyer, if a statement of information comes back with some of those concerns, I mean, it could potentially unqualify that buyer, right?
That is correct.
So I mean, it's important for buyers to fill out that statement of information up front and early so we can get all that work done and cleared so that we can close successfully, right?
Correct.
Wonderful. Now, as a seller, there's a form that's always comes up. It's called the 593C, and it pertains to tax withholdings, right?
Correct. Yes.
So can you explain to us what a 593C form is and why it's important to fill out correctly?
So in the opening package that we always send out with the sellers, there is that form, the 593C, the tax withholding. There are options that the seller can mark, and a lot of times they don't really understand the form. The main importance is to know how you're exempt from that withholding. And the number one way to be exempt is if the property is your primary residence in the last 2 years and the last 5 years.
Okay.
So we need to let the sellers understand that they can be exempt with that. They can also do a 1031 exchange or sell their property in a corporation or LLC. Those are the ways to be exempt from the property.
Now, obviously, we're not tax professionals, but you know, it's some of the information that we need to close an escrow on the seller side. But you know, if there is a doubt, definitely recommend that you consult with your tax consultant so that there's any issues with regards to tax, they can better explain it to you, right?
Correct. CPAs can always help with that.
Wonderful. You know, as part of a closing transaction, there's what we call the preliminary title report. And can you tell us a little bit about what that is and how that helps in closing a transaction?
So a preliminary title report is something that you need on every sale transaction. It's a breakdown of taxes that may be owed, any delinquent taxes, any liens or judgments that appear on that property that need to be paid before we close escrow.
Okay, wonderful. So it would break down like any encumbrances, liens, loans, tax issues. So that gives us an opportunity to make sure that we address those during the transaction and we're assured a smooth closing per se, right?
Yes.
When the sale closes, what are the 2 items or 3 items that will be on the new prelim for the new owner typically?
So it's not going to really be a new prelim, it's going to be the final title policy. And that's going to clear anything that the seller already paid off, and then the new mortgage that the buyer secures against the property.
All right, okay, excellent. Well, I thank you for that explanation. Once again, Hector Aguilar of Aguilar Realty Group Homes here with Jacquie Selditch. Thank you for taking some time to answer some of these important escrow questions. If you're in the market to buy or sell, please reach out to us. We'd love to help you. Thanks again for spending some time with us.
Thank you.